against 7 strangers, does that not make you a serial
So
killer?
I didn't kill them every day, did I? Did I go out there every day and say, I'm gonna kill? If I did, there would
Well,
be
no,
hundreds.
it took you 12 months.
Then he brings up Rex again, and that's when I just looked at him and I started stabbing him.
If I had shot my own children, would I not have done a good job of it?
Because, first of all, women generally don't commit crimes this heinous.
Right.
This is usually the domain of men.
That's unfortunate.
Drinking. Hi, Gabe.
Hey, Danny.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. A little sore from rock climbing that you were once again invited to and didn't show up to.
I went to the gym and then I went home and Travis was at my house and he told me about it and I was like, I'm already tired.
Oh, for the cabinet thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Danny. It's a standing offer every Friday and you never come. I'm starting to think you have something against your brother.
Actually, you know what? This is actually the first weekend where this is the only social thing I have in months. And it's been amazing.
Yeah.
So I have zero regrets. But maybe eventually I'll go when I'm recuperated from socializing. Maybe.
Yeah. When's the last time you rock climbed, actually?
I don't know, a while.
Because we took about a month off because of our friend's wedding and all that jazz. I struggled with V4s, whereas before the month, I was doing them now pretty reliably. So you might have a rough go of things.
I had a rough go of like V1s when I was doing it.
Oh no. No, I thought you'd gotten pretty good like in college.
In college, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
So.
But how are you?
Well, do you remember a while ago we talked
The attic story?
about the attic?
Yes.
Okay. So there was something in our attic and it was loud and I was like, I don't think it's rats. I was like, I think it's rats. But we finally went in the attic and I'm just going to send you this picture. We figured out how it's getting in the attic.
It flies in because it's a bird. That was my guess. Oh, that is a proper hole in your roof.
So it literally like ripped through our roof and it made a big hole. It's like bigger than my foot. And I think it's too big to be rats. So we put a camera in there and we fixed the hole and we haven't seen anything. But
Wait, why would you fix the hole first?
because I don't want it going back in our attic.
Don't you want to see what it is? That's a big hole.
It was massive. We're thinking either like squirrels or a raccoon.
I don't think squirrels would have made holes that big.
Yeah.
A raccoon makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't gone back in. But we're ready. We have a camera in the attic now. So
What if it's invisible?
what if it's a person? I keep creeping myself out.
Okay, that hole's big, but is it a person-sized big?
No. But it could be a person.
What if it's a baby?
Ew. Anyways, so that's resolved for now. And
It doesn't feel resolved.
it's resolved for now. We covered the hole and there's nothing in there. And
But you don't want to know what it is?
no, I don't want it to come back. What if we angered it by covering the hole?
What if it makes a different hole?
Yeah. Well, we are getting our roof replaced this summer. So,
How are the dogs not freaking out?
because they're terrible. I don't know.
But like they can hear.
I know.
You should have been able to hear something like going into the roof through the roof, and
We could hear it. We would all look up and be like, what is that?
the dogs wouldn't bark. Or
No. What would it matter if they barked? It's in the attic. It's not going to like run away.
You could just take Boo and just put him in the attic.
Are you kidding me? He would just cave in the whole ceiling. Our attic is not safe. And then, oh my gosh, the fucking dogs. Yesterday they were playing. And when they play, they like, the zoomies, you run really fast. Well, Boo zooming right into a wall.
Oh no!
And he cracked the drywall and caved it in.
What?
So we have to fix that now too. Yeah.
Oh boy.
But on the bright side, remember how I lost my tags for my car?
Yes.
Yeah, I found them.
Where were they?
They were under a bunch of paper. And so I was cleaning and I found them and then I set them down and I've lost them again. And I'm really worried I threw them away when I was cleaning all the papers. But, it'll fix itself again.
I tell this. That's ADHD brain right there. Like you have them. You're like, yes. Your first action should have been putting them on your car and then being like, that task is now complete for at least another 6 months.
Yeah.
Wait, is it? Or are these for 2023 to 2024?
No,
Stickers?
it's 2024 to 5.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what month.
Yeah.
I know it's been a couple months since I was supposed to do it.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, that would have been nice to have checked off.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have. I don't know how it happens. It was in my hand and then it was gone. So
Just it's how these things happen.
it happens a lot.
You were too.
Like so often. I'll have the TV remote and Kobe and I are like looking through the TV for something. And then like I'll get distracted and start talking to him. I'll look back and it's just not in my hand anymore. And I'm like, where did it go?
Maybe you should check for a carbon monoxide leak.
It doesn't happen to Kobe though.
True. What if he's immune to the effects of carbon monoxide?
What if it's because he's not there all night?
There you go.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, we have a bunch of carbon monoxide detectors.
We have one, and it's from like the 50s. It's that one on the wall. It's like really old.
Why don't you get a new one?
If I start walking around being like, "Who left this sticky note here? That's my handwriting, but I didn't write it." Then I'll consider a new one.
Okay. Well, isn't your landlord supposed to give you one?
Probably, but
I don't know.
we have good rent, so
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. You have windows.
yeah, we have a bunch of windows. Look,
Yeah.
look at all these windows that we
So
closed
many
for
windows.
recording.
Yeah. So
I wish we had as many doors as you do, though.
why? Oh, just in our kitchen?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have like, oh gosh, probably at least 9 doors, maybe more, just in our kitchen leaning against the wall.
Yeah,
So if, I keep trying to give them away and nobody wants them.
because who's like, oh, you know what I need today? A door.
I know. Some of them are like super tall.
Yes.
So it's not even like a normal size door. I'm just like, oh man.
You can make a maze out of those,
Yeah.
like an endless maze of doors.
I could just replace that wall Boo ruined with
Yeah.
doors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would be like, where does this door go? And like make the knob turn, but it doesn't ever actually open.
Like the Winchester house.
Yes.
Just doors that lead nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. Let's make my house more chaotic.
Hell yeah.
Oh man.
It'll be a great setup for the party that we're going to have at 100,000 downloads.
We're getting close. I think we're probably at like 70 now, right?
Yeah.
So next
It
summer.
might happen this year.
Say next year.
We got 6 months.
Yeah, but we're about to go on season
Break.
finale.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I guess you all should know we're after one more episode, we'll be hitting our break maybe for a month. We'll see how long Danny can go without
Well,
recording.
apparently you're like going somewhere in September.
So in a month, I'll be going backpacking in the Sierras.
Okay.
And I say that because the Sierras are a big range of mountains.
How long
So,
are you going for?
A week.
Wait, are you going with my brother?
Yeah, he will be
He
there.
has not requested any time off.
He should have.
What the heck? I'm gonna text him and be angry. Anyways,
Yeah.
okay, so you're going backpacking next month.
Yeah, for about a week. The plan was for him to be there for 3 days. So it's not the whole week for him.
Oh, that's not very long yet. Wait, are you doing it alone then?
No, it's this friend of mine from a different part of California.
Uh-huh.
He's this like cool, crazy mountain man. He's like hiked across Greenland in like the snow. He described the experience where it was the floor is obviously all white because of the snow, but because it's snowing and the weather, so like the sky and the view in front of you is also all white. So you can't even see the dividing line between land and sky.
Mm-hmm.
So it just looks like white in front of you, aside from the people on your team, because they're all like tethered together, walking.
Ooh.
And he said it's like it's almost like an isolation chamber,
Mm-hmm.
or sorry, I should say a sensory deprivation chamber.
Oh, I got what you meant. Yeah.
And so he said like memories would come back, like that he forgot he knew.
I don't like that.
No, yeah, he said it was a very strange experience, and it's so cold that it makes everything more difficult. When it comes
Yeah,
to, like,
and
camping.
breathing.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh, but he trained extensively for it.
Mm.
He would he reminds me a little of, in this regard, of maybe like Kobe, where he can get pretty single-minded in his goal.
I know.
He would go on his elliptical and he would just like do the elliptical for 8 hours on a Saturday
What?
because he needed the cardio, because he'd be doing that all day.
The most I can do the elliptical for is like 30 minutes, and I am bored out of my mind.
Yeah. I think he listens to like audiobooks, but that's the thing. Like even the being bored part is probably part of the training.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Wait, okay, so you're going backpacking, and then
Yeah.
you also have another trip planned in a couple months, right?
Yeah, we want to go to Japan.
Right. And then I'm gone in August. Oh, you guys, we're going to have to figure out this schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
We might need well, even if we came back in like September,
That's 3 months from now.
that wouldn't actually even be our longest break.
I know. We took a long break once,
Yeah.
but it hurts my heart.
I know, but you got a trip. I got a trip.
Maybe we'll do chaotic episodes.
Little one-offs.
Yeah.
It would give you more time to research.
Yeah.
Do like longer deep dives.
Speaking of deep dives, I read a book for today's episode.
Yes.
So a long time ago, I did a her story on the 40 Elephants gang, which is like a gang, and I'll tell you all about it because that's what today's episode is about.
Yeah.
And I actually had a few people reach out to me who were very interested in an episode on that. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And here we are.
People, I told you live when you were recording.
You
I was
did.
like, why isn't this a
And
murder?
I was like, I don't know. And then I completely forgot about it. And then I had a couple people reach out and be like, hey, are you actually going to do this? And I was like, oh, I will now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to do it. And I read a book called Alice Diamond and the 40 Elephants by Brian McDonald. And I also read other sites. And this is an old one. So, you know, things are said different in different sources. And also this gang was very secretive, as you'll find. And because of that, a lot of this information just came out of like police records and newspaper clippings and that kind of thing. So yeah, you ready?
Hell yeah.
We're going to start by, I'm just going to discuss a few different women in history who were criminals to kind of show you like this was around, you know. Ready? We're going to start with Mary Frith, and she was a forerunner of London's female criminals. She started off by cutting purse straps off of women and just grabbing their purse and bailing. She was born in 1585. And
1585?
yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm like, how old is London? It's very old.
I thought this was going to take place at the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. We're going back in history right now just to discuss different women. And then we're going to like flash forward to the start of the 40 Elephant Gang.
Got it. My bad. I was like...
So I want you guys to know it's like this did exist before the gang. There was women criminals, and one of them was Mary Frith, and she was actually caught in the 1600 stealing a purse, and it's thought she avoided the noose because she was a woman. But if she had been a man, she likely would have been hung for that crime. She ended up being branded on her hand, and she wore it as a badge and continued her criminal ways. She got married, but he left her because she wouldn't stop stealing things. So she did as any woman would, and she became a pimp.
Okay.
Yeah. At one point, she was running away after stealing something, and her horse gave out, and she was caught, but she ended up shooting the man in the arm, and he was so embarrassed to be shot by a woman that he let her go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That must be like the ultimate level of being emasculated at that time.
I guess it was. He was quite embarrassed. And she died in 1654. What's thought to be heart issues, but you know, back then the records weren't exactly top notch.
Yeah. I mean, that was before we knew germs were a thing.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because even when the 40 Elephant Gang's around, it's like London was disgusting. Europe in the 1870s and 80s were full of street gangs, including an influx of American criminals, and that made everything worse. This included
USA.
I know, right? We've been just messing things up all our history. So this included a woman named Sophie Lyons. She was the daughter of a notorious shoplifter from New York, and she ended up in France. And then in 1888, she was arrested in Paris for pickpocketing. She garnered a lot of sympathy from the public by posing and pretending to be Madame Varney, a lady of means who could not speak French and was being put upon by beastly prosecutors.
Why would anyone buy that? I mean,
Because it was 1888.
you've been caught pickpocketing.
Yeah,
So-
and she's saying she's like they have the wrong person. Like, I've never done this. I'm a woman of means.
Oh, okay.
I don't speak French. I don't know what's happening to me. That kind of thing.
I can see why that would work.
Playing the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
And she ended up being discharged and quickly moved to England right before an expose of her was released with her real identity. And after being in England a while, she moved back to the States and retired at the age of 64. She wrote a memoir
Memoir, yeah.
called Why Crime Does Not Pay. However, she died in 1924 as a very wealthy woman, and she left most of her fortune to women's charities.
Wait, so the memoir was ironic. Like the title was ironic, right?
I don't know.
Why Crime Doesn't Pay, Dies Wealthy.
Yeah. It's hilarious. She's great. Maybe she was playing damsel in distress again.
Yeah,
But-
I'm waiting for Nancy Pelosi's memoir, Why Insider Trading Doesn't Pay.
No, what's her name? Martha Stewart.
For her too.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about, before we talk about the 40 Elephant Gang, we have to talk about their male counterpart called the Elephant and Castle Gang. So this gang started in the 1780s, and the name came from the Elephant and Castle Tavern, where the thieves and gang members would meet. It was located on a bunch of crossroads that made it easy to travel and easy to access London. So it was an easy meeting spot. Oh, back then it seems like a lot of gangs were named after where they were located. So
Yeah.
but I didn't read that, but it's something I noticed. So I could be completely wrong, and it could be anyways, it's fine. I'm probably right.
No, I mean,
So-
that happens now to some extent.
Yeah.
There was this is not at all a prolific gang, but there is a gang where we come from.
Oh yeah.
That, you know,
And it's just like the
incorporates the
straight
name.
up. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Just a lack of imagination.
I mean, why change what works?
So this area was not a rich area, shockingly. It was a working area where the working class congregated and large families shared apartments. It was a bunch of people in a single room. Girls and women found themselves unable to afford winter coats, so they began to go out and steal them because they had nothing else. The women and girls would band together and go out to the clubs because going alone wasn't a good option. Out of these necessities, the girls bonded and they began to form an all-female gang. So a lot of these girls were either related to or dating men who were in the 40 Elephant Gang. No, sorry, the Elephant and Castle Gang.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And they kind of banded together and kind of started to do a little...
Gang of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to call it a spin-off, but I didn't like that word. And the men would even encourage their sisters, girlfriends, and wives to go out and join and steal stuff because, you're so poor. Why not?
Would they go to like more affluent neighborhoods to do this?
Not at first because they would stand out,
Yeah.
So at first it was just go out anywhere outside of their little area and steal from other working class. And then the women in the gangs started to experience a new kind of freedom and empowerment, and they began to learn to fight in case they were caught, and also as a way to become less reliant on men. And the women, as they stole and they got, more money and more confident, they began to afford to dress and look like they belonged in richer neighborhoods. And then they started to go to more affluent neighborhoods and steal from those kinds of shops and places. And during this time period, I learned something so stupid. I mean, I don't know, maybe you'll be shocked. So
What?
do you know why the Victorian era is named the Victorian era?
After the Queen?
Yes!
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was reading the book and he mentioned that, and I was like, oh, I've never had that like directly pointed out to me, and I never put two and two together. So anyways, during the Victorian era, women were kind of expected to be like very demure,
I think.
Demure?
Yeah. Demure.
like shy and quiet and that kind of thing. However, after Queen Victoria died and her son Edward came in, that started to change, and it became more acceptable to be like women to be a little bit more bold and a little bit more daring. And the women started to figure out how to plan shoplifting trips, and they would break into warehouses where like clothes were stored, and they would steal from there. And they would occasionally bring men as protection, but they had realized like this would cut into their proceeds. And so
Profits?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why proceeds. I've never heard someone say proceeds in crime. So it just struck me as odd.
It might be the wrong word then. Profits.
Yeah.
And so again, they would try to like learn to fight more and sneak up for themselves and not have to rely on men. And
I don't suppose you know how they learned to fight more. Just as someone who's done martial arts for a long time, what was available in the 1500s, I suspect, was primarily some form of boxing variation.
that's what I imagine, but I don't know. I do know.
Like you've seen those old timey like boxing photos. Where
That's what
like,
I imagined when I was reading it, but it didn't go into, nothing went into depth about it.
Got it. Okay.
And around 1890 is when the female thieves of Southeast London truly split from men and decided to elect their own. They called her a queen. And the first queen was named Mary Carr. Mary was born in 1862 to John and Jane Carr, and she had an older brother as well as 2 younger sisters. Mary's mother died when she was 9 years old, and her father was known to be a thief and bond forger. She began stealing by her teens, and in 1881, she ended up at the St. Mary the Virgin Female Penitentiary, which seemed to be almost like a boarding house for troubled teens or like single pregnant women, and it was extremely strict.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the exact year she was released from the penitentiary, but she quickly just went straight back into crime, as one would who has nothing else to do. Like,
I mean, we know of recidivism rates now and like some of their causes, but at the time, that was rehab even a thing that people thought about when it came to prison?
Probably not. So she became a notorious thief, well known to the police, and she was a pro at fencing stolen goods, selling them quickly so they couldn't be traced. And under Mary, the gang was loosely organized and still sometimes partnered with the all-male Elephant and Castle gang for mutual benefit. So this time period, like 1900 to 1920, was the peak of the Industrial Revolution, and women had very limited choices during this time. It's like you could either marry and have a family, like marry, like wear the white dress, not marry the name, or work yourself to death, or do both, you know? And wealthy women kind of had a different option. They were able to live a life of leisure in their mansions, and, you know, we've all seen Bridgerton. Actually, I haven't either.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's about. I don't even know the time period.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that. So Mary led the 40 thieves and taught them how to like really fit in with rich women, shopping, and how to use that to steal. One of the cons she led was to seduce a man into an alleyway, so get him alone, and then a group of women would surround him and they would claim to be witnesses and blackmail him so that he would pay them to not be reported for assault. And that was a very common one. At this time, they were still like a relatively small gang.
Sorry, I'm stuck on the assault bit. How, I guess any amount of punishment would be worth avoiding. But I was thinking, like, surely at the time, slapping a woman wouldn't be that big of a deal.
It could have been more than that they were accused of. But
yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah. And also, I don't think they were like, give us your entire livelihood. It was probably just easier to pay and make these women go away.
That rhymed.
Oh, what do you know? So Mary wore rings that were valued at over 300 pounds in a time when most men made less than 2 pounds per week. It's estimated that she was making about 40 pounds per day. In today's money, that's over 2,000 in a single day.
Wow.
So they were like making bank, but they're still like not super organized. It's kind of like they'd meet up sometimes, they'd go out, but it wasn't like organized, you know?
You mean in terms of schedule? Because they at least have a hierarchy already. They have a
Yes.
command structure. They have
Yes.
the queen, and then I imagine she has lieutenants. Or is she just still doing the only calls? Like, she leads everything right now?
I think she leads everything right now.
Okay.
And she was also always in and out of jail. So there was always kind of a few women who would take lead while Mary was in prison. But they usually ended up in prison pretty quickly themselves or died because it was London and you get sick, you die.
Yeah.
Speaking of death, serious theft was punished with the death penalty, which caused the gang to start to question if the smaller jobs were worth it. And this is when they began to focus more on large jobs only. Because, it's worth it if you get dead. I don't... You know what I mean?
It's worth it if you get dead?
If it's like more?
You mean, yeah, the risk of dying is more palatable if the payout is more
There you go.
significant. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, if you're dead, it's not worth it at all.
No. So Mary was in prison a lot, like I said, and there's this 20-year-old woman named Alice who kind of just fell into the spot of queen. And Alice is credited as the one who brought the gang to its true glory. She's known for planning simultaneous heists all over the city, and her nickname was Diamond Annie because she wore these diamond rings on all her fingers so that she, like, what are they called when you punch somebody?
What's it called when you punch somebody?
No, with like you're wearing brass rings. What's it called?
brass knuckles.
There you go, brass.
Yeah.
It was almost like that, but with diamond rings.
Yeah.
And her last name was in fact Diamond. It wasn't like because of her nickname.
You're kidding.
No, like her father's last name was Diamond. And she was born to Thomas and Mary. It was Thomas Diamond. And she was the oldest of 8 kids, which was not odd at the time. It was common for working class families to have around 12 kids.
That's how many my grandma had.
That's crazy.
Actually, it was more.
Oh my gosh. Well, fun fact, this is around the time that Margaret Sanger was around, and she's known for being the founder of Planned Parenthood and believed in contraceptives and eugenics. And,
Yeah. I was waiting for that one.
yeah. But back then, I went into this random little deep dive, and back then it was like anybody who was into contraception was kind of into eugenics, which is, I guess it has a bit of a dark history to it.
It does.
But nowadays it's all about independence. So, where was I? Oh, also something super interesting. So Annie, she took over... Well, okay, let's finish her childhood first before we go into there.
Okay.
So her father had been arrested multiple times for stealing, and the family moved around a lot. So that was her childhood.
Wait, this is Alice Diamond's dad?
Yeah, Thomas Diamond.
Yeah.
And when Alice took over the gang, she was young. She was only 20. And I think part of it is because like her dad was in prison a lot. So she kind of had to, grow up. She didn't have that father. She was the man. She was the father. She was the oldest of 8 kids. So I imagine she had to help with that. And
Yeah, no doubt.
And she took over in 1915, took over the Elephant Gang. And she was described as having this like strength and confidence about her that even the older and more experienced members of the gang just really listened to and respected. She was 5 feet 9 inches tall.
That's quite tall for a woman even now.
Yeah. Back then, the average man was 5'6". So what are they today in America?
5'9", 5'10".
Okay. So yeah, it's even more shocking back then.
Yeah.
So she was described as having high cheekbones, dark hair, and the few pictures I found of her, you can just tell she's confident. She's just like facing the camera like, hey. And with her guidance, the 40 elephants really started to thrive. She divided London into districts and she called them different cells, and she assembled small teams, and through this she was able to catalog who had been where and rotate them to prevent being recognized and see where they were hitting and when and if they needed to move somewhere else. She had all new arrivals trained by experienced members, and each member had a rank that measured their ability and criminal longevity. So this is kind of where, the whole lieutenant thing happens that you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, like true organization. And she had certain rules, like she had to approve any boyfriend or like if they had gone to get married, she had to approve it, because if she considered somebody untrustworthy, she couldn't risk them being married into the gang and, have their secrets taken.
Of course.
So it was very secretive. She made sure they never wore what they stole. They were careful to keep everything in warehouses, and they would fence all the goods. And it was like legit crazy, the stuff they would do, and wild clothing designs they created. They made a dress that had a fake arm, and the real arm was like hidden so it could sneak out and grab something when somebody was distracted.
That's cool.
And they added so many hidden pockets in all the dresses to make it easier just to slip hidden goods in. And a detective was quoted, Detective Ambrose Askew was quoted saying, "The 40 elephants are," he's a detective from back then, not now.
Yeah.
"The 40 elephants are the cleverest lifters in the country, and their associates regarded them as the most expert thieves in the world. They operate all over the country. Their methods are so remarkable that they have never been seen to take any goods, and none of the property has been recovered." So, yeah, they're good. And obviously they were like making the police kind of upset. They're starting to create waves. And one of their favorites was having a group of women all dressed as if they're rich rush up to a jewelry counter and gush over the jewelry and like pass it around to each other and like keep trying on multiple pieces at once. And they would pass them around so quickly the clerk would get confused, and then they would pocket some pieces, or as that kind of was caught on among stores that they're doing this, they would take a good and they would take a piece of gum that they had chewed and stick it under the counter. So the clerk would be like, "Wait, I'm missing this piece. Let me search you." And he would search them and none of them would have it. So they would get let go. And then later, someone else would come in to look at stuff and would take it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. So shoplifting was like their bread and butter. But when places became really wary and like would have people follow them and like hire extra staff and whatnot, they had other things that they would do while they waited for the stores to settle down. And they would get hired into rich people's homes as maids. And like when the family was gone, they'd call the gang, and the gang would come in and just clean out the house, just steal everything. And also another thing, that Alice became really known for being the queen and stuff, and her face was known. So sometimes she would go into stores on purpose, and the store clerk would get so like distracted and freaking out, and like then somebody else would come in from the gang and it'd be easier for them to steal something because he'd be focusing on Alice. And Alice was known for being ruthless. It was not uncommon for people to end up dead who had wronged the gang or who Alice just did not like or trust. And while Alice was in prison, the warden mentioned he was worried that Alice was teaching other inmates how to steal and pickpocket. So she was like, it was like she was recruiting if she was in prison, you know? And she also managed to continue to lead the 40 elephants while she had like short prison sentences, which showed how strong of a leader she was and how organized they were. Because previously, whenever like Mary or whoever, it was actually just Mary, had gone to prison, they would kind of either somebody else would come and take over, or they just kind of like would fumble. So she really just brought them to this organized level where they were really able to function.
How did she lead from prison?
I think they just like say your boss gets sick and is gone. There's such like a structured organization that you're able to function without him.
I see.
But
Because that brings up an interesting, like a potential situation where people beneath her might feel like they don't need her anymore.
I think they respected her so much that that didn't come up.
Okay.
And I don't think that's like a huge thing with women. That might be, I don't know. I guess I
mean,
shouldn't speak for all women. But
Also, I mean, this isn't a huge thing for women, this level of criminal structure.
yeah.
So I just suspect you're clearly attracting certain kinds of individuals.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine some must be power hungry.
That's
Like,
true.
That's not a trait unique to men.
Yeah. It didn't really seem to be a problem. I will say her leadership didn't continue on. What happened was a gang member had wanted to marry somebody, and Alice was like, no, I don't trust this guy. You can't marry him. And the person either got pregnant or just decided to defy Alice. Both of them are said. So she ends up marrying the guy, and Alice gets really, really upset and orders the gang to take out the woman and the husband. And this resulted in either it happened like in a bar and resulted in this huge brawl, or they snuck into the woman and her husband's house and were beating him, and the police got called and all the gang members who were there were arrested. Either way, something happened. A lot of the gang ended up in prison, and Alice was sent off to a labor camp for like 18 months, which is the longest she's been gone. So, unfortunately, with Alice leaving the gang for so long, it naturally new leadership did happen. And her name is Lillian Rose Kendall, and she's known as the bobbed-haired bandit because of her hairstyle that was like in a bob. And she kind of started to lead them in a new direction. She really liked to do what is referenced as a smash and grab, where you would literally just drive cars into stores and smash your way inside and then steal a bunch of stuff and run. And she started to use the rail system to like steal, and women would go in and drop their goods in the trains, and then when they came out and police were waiting, they wouldn't have anything on them, and then other women who weren't being looked for would pick it up and leave, that kind of thing.
Okay, I like that plan a lot better than the smash and grab.
I know.
That's a very noisy. It involves a car.
The weird thing is most of the smash and grabs weren't found until the morning when the store clerk went and like found his store smashed and grabbed.
So they would do these in the evening, probably late at
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
That's a lot better.
But it's still very crude.
It is. It doesn't have the
smash and grab.
Yeah, it doesn't have the finesse.
Yeah. And some sources say that Alice came back to the 40 Elephant Gang after she got out of prison, and she worked with them but did not take on a leadership role. And I kind of think I just have a feeling that this is the case. I think she did continue to work with them. But other sources say she started a brothel. So
why is that? That seems to be the path for some of these women.
it does. Yeah. I don't know. I like to believe she went back to the gang and just maybe she's the one who came up with the train thing.
Well, look, 18 months of a labor camp takes a toll on one physically and mentally.
Yeah.
So it's possible she didn't want the stress of leadership anymore,
Yeah.
but was more than willing to. I mean, this must have felt like a family to her,
Exactly.
and so you still want to be a part of that family.
Yeah. So she unfortunately died at age 55 in 1952. She is expected to have died of MS. It became common for the women to pretend to be pregnant or sick and demand to be let out of police custody, like if they were caught and didn't have any goods, and they would. And it kind of just seems like after Alice wasn't queen anymore, that it just wasn't ever what it was when she was queen, you know? And it's not really fully known what ever happened. It just kind of appears that the gang started to disband and fizzle out in the 1950s. There just stopped being reports about it. There stopped being women who were arrested and who said they were part of the gang. So it seems like it kind of just naturally ended.
Based on how much Alice was making, I imagine many of the other women in the gang were making a decent living.
Oh yeah, it was I don't want to say it was like a joke, but it was like a thing where if you were with a woman who was in that gang, you didn't have to work.
Yeah. So when you have a criminal enterprise that is working and making people wealthy, a lot of these women might just want out at a certain point. And so, like, why am I going to keep risking myself when I can just be done now?
Yeah, that's true. And also, I mean, she was leader for from 1950 to 1925.
1850.
1950. No, 1915 to
1915.
25. And keep in mind, these are all just like based off of arrest records and when she went to the camp and that kind of thing. So that's a long time. And then like to have her taken away and somebody else who just like didn't have the same, I don't want to like talk badly about what was her name? The Bond.
Lillian Rose Kendall.
Yeah.
Haired
The
bandit.
bob-haired bandit. But I think that Alice had just something about her, and she was in it for so long that when she disappeared, it kind of just naturally started to fizzle.
But I do think if you're making your members rich, I mean, a lot of these women seem to want to get married and then have kids, and you don't want to, like, priorities shift.
Yeah.
And
well,
the gang,
they also don't really have a choice to want to have kids suddenly. A lot of it is, shit, I'm pregnant.
Yeah. But at the very least, I think the pregnancy could be unwanted, but once you have the kid, it's kind of like, I don't want to put myself at risk, my family at risk.
When Alice was queen, she was really good at recruiting as well. So yeah, maybe that changed. I don't know.
Yeah. But that to me sounds like what?
Or they're still around.
Yeah, that was going to be my option B.
Yeah, that is a thing. People are like, we don't know.
You mentioned that less women who get caught say they're part of the gang. But I'm like, why would they ever say they're part of the gang? I suppose that's a reputation thing, but that becomes less effective.
Does it? Why? What do you mean?
I mean, what I mean is it starts being a hindrance.
Such a gang thing,
But let me put it in terms of like military.
They tag shit.
But let me put it in terms of like military versus covert organizations.
Okay.
Because there's like some physical realities here.
Okay.
They cannot be the Marines. They have to be the CIA. And the Marines can show up on the beach.
I don't know the difference.
So the Marines is a military branch of the military.
Yes.
And they consist of soldiers.
CIA is like secretive.
And the CIA is spies.
Right.
They cannot be the Marines. They cannot go muscle for muscle with some of these other gangs just by nature of being women. Like, you get into a bar brawl, you're going to take more casualties in each of these fights than the other side. All things being equal, like numbers being equal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you operate more as a covert agency.
Yeah. Well, they do seem like they were fairly secretive because there's just like not that much information on them.
Yeah.
I read this whole book and I would say 70% of it was about the male gangs in the time period.
But that's what I mean. Like, I would think whether it was Lillian Rose Kendall, the bob-haired bandit, or some other new leadership, I could see a wise leader saying, we need to go underground. We need to stop being so out in the open, because why are we going to risk getting into these disputes over territory when we can instead be more scattered, a little more siloed, but make less noise and still keep profits high?
They were around for like 50 years and they did great. Maybe a little less than 50 years.
Yeah.
Almost 40 years. So whatever they're doing, they worked it.
Yeah. I said this last time, but you know the Peaky Blinders show?
Yeah.
It's about a gang from Birmingham, England.
Uh-huh.
And the real gang lasted about 40 years, if that.
Yeah.
And they were taken out by another gang.
Mm.
But in the show, it's like, they get global and they go on longer. This gang was more successful. 40 Elephants. Where's their TV show? That would be a cool TV show. Yeah,
I read one single article that was like, I bet Peaky Blinders got their idea off of these women. But
And maybe in part, the Peaky Blinders, I think in the beginning they focus more on what's it called? They like fix bets.
mm-hmm.
They start off as like
Horse racing?
yeah,
How do you fix that?
I don't know all the particulars, and protection services. They also do protection
Okay.
for other people.
Like women gangs.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean they did hire men, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
for a little while.
Yeah, they did. Sometimes they would dress as men too.
Yeah, that would work. That would work.
Mm-hmm. So
Does it make you want to start a gang?
No, absolutely not. That seems like a lot of work. Seems like so much work.
Yeah.
I'm just no. I'm okay. I also don't think nowadays you'd be able to be as successful doing what they did because it's thought that a lot of the stores started to only like hand out one piece of jewelry at a time and make you put back the one because of these women. And when I went wedding ring shopping, it was one at a time. They only let you do one.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was like, I wonder if it's because of these shoplifting women.
See, like I would think if they still wanted to commit crime, although at a certain point when your crime has made so much money, you do as the mafia and the cartel do, and you just like start buying legitimate businesses.
Yeah.
But assuming you still want to do the crime thing, why wouldn't you just like get women hired in key positions and like smuggle funds that way?
They made so much money, and
Yeah.
they're known for like partying and stuff. But like, what did they do with it all? We don't know.
Yeah.
Like, is there people nowadays who are super wealthy from family money because they had ancestors in this? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm so curious because we don't know. We just know the game
Yeah.
fizzled out. Maybe they all just decided to retire. I don't know.
They're still out there.
Yeah.
They've gone covert.
They're still out there stealing.
Yeah. Now they just do investment banking.
Oh, that's true. Probably, yeah. But it is very interesting. I wish we knew because if back before they're organized, the leader was making £2,000 a day in today's money.
Yeah.
2,000. Could you imagine like 2,000? That's how much is that in a year?
Shit ton.
So much money.
Let me get
And
it.
like after Alice took over, it only had to get more profitable.
I did 2,000 pounds a week. 2,000 pounds per day.
A day, 365. Although I'm sure they took days off, but
That's 730,000. If you're doing it every day.
Yeah.
But I doubt she was doing it every day.
so even then it's like 500,000.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say dollars a year. And then after Alice took over, it probably got more profitable.
That's what I mean. Like,
And so
at what point do you just retire the gang and say, look, we're all rich. Let's just like be done.
maybe they did do that.
I would do that. Like, why keep risking it all?
Yeah.
Like, if you can retire, just like go hang out.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm so curious. I'm like, what did you guys do with all that money? Nobody knows.
Retired, I imagine.
Yeah,
Just
but
bought houses, bought real estate, rented it out. Like, just did legitimate things with it.
yeah. Wow. It's hard to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. That's the story of the 40 Elephant Gang.
Nice.
That's what I could find.
Yeah, no. Thank you for the story.
Yeah.
I know it was I want to say by popular demand, but it was like 4 people.
That is popular demand.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
But I certainly wanted to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. It was brutal reading that book. Not
Not good.
because the book was great, super interesting, but I haven't read a physical book in
Oh.
years. And it was such tiny writing. And on my Kindle, I can like make everything bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, it was rough. So,
I'm going to the eye doctor in a couple days. Not because I need it, but because I haven't been to an eye doctor in a long time.
oh, it must be nice.
Yeah.
I went a couple months ago and I got an updated prescription. I can't read it. So
What?
I don't know what to do. He hand wrote it. Like,
Oh,
who
no.
hand writes prescriptions?
Just doctors call them.
That's what everybody says. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll just make an appointment at Costco because they email you the
Oh.
prescription.
That could work.
Yeah.
Costco's
Just
great.
literally avoid making a phone call. So
Yeah.
it's fine.
All right. Look at that. sub-hour episode.
Wow,
Short and
guys.
sweet.
Let's just do all of them in the early 1900s and then
Yeah. And there's less information.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we got a solid amount of information about how they worked, and that's what's
Yeah.
really important. So cool.
As usual, guys, subscribe to our Patreon after Danny takes the intro gift away, so we don't lose $40.
Yes, we have limited intro gifts because we were like, you know what, this is actually really stupid of Danny to do. So they will be changing. We have limited quantities, so enroll now if you would like one of the better ones.
And please don't enroll after we make it go away.
We have stuff anyway, so it's fine. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye for now.